I'm a police officer in a small town, and I've seen my fair share of strange and unsettling things, but nothing could have prepared me for what I encountered on one cold winter night. I was on patrol, driving through the quiet streets, when I received a call about a disturbance at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. When I arrived on the scene, I could hear strange noises coming from inside the building. It sounded like scratching and scraping, as if something was trying to break through the walls. I drew my gun and cautiously approached the warehouse, calling out for anyone inside to come out with their hands up. But there was no response, only the sound of the scratching growing louder and more frantic. With my heart pounding, I kicked open the door and stepped inside, my gun at the ready. The warehouse was pitch black, but I could see strange shadows moving in the corners of my vision. I called out again, demanding that whoever was inside reveal themselves. But again, there was no response. As I crept further into the darkness, the scratching and scraping grew louder and more frenzied. And then, suddenly, the noises stopped. I was plunged into an eerie silence, and I knew that something was very wrong. That's when I felt it. A cold, clammy hand on my shoulder, gripping me tightly. I spun around, ready to fire my gun, but there was nothing there. And then, I saw it. A shadowy figure, barely visible in the darkness, hovering just out of reach. It was humanoid in shape, but with unnaturally long limbs and twisted features that seemed to twist and writhe in the shadows. I tried to back away, to call for backup, but the figure was too fast. It lunged at me with inhuman speed, and I felt its icy fingers wrap around my neck. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed. My colleagues told me that they had found me lying unconscious in the warehouse, with no sign of the strange figure that had attacked me. But I knew what I had seen, and I knew that I would never forget the terror of that night, or the feeling of that cold, clammy hand on my shoulder. For weeks after the incident, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me, watching my every move. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, every sound a potential threat. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and could barely function in my day-to-day life. As time went on, I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. Maybe I had been too tired, too stressed, and had just imagined the whole thing. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the case. Then one night, I received a call from a terrified woman who claimed that she was being followed by a shadowy figure. I rushed to her location, my heart racing with fear and anticipation. As I arrived at the woman's house, I could see that the windows were all boarded up and the doors were heavily reinforced. She let me in, and I could see that she was trembling with fear. She told me that she had been haunted by the shadowy figure for weeks, that it had been stalking her every move, and that she was convinced that it was going to kill her. I searched the house, but found no sign of the figure. But as I was leaving, I caught a glimpse of something in the corner of my eye. It was the shadowy figure lurking just outside the window. I drew my gun and rushed outside, but the figure had disappeared once again. I searched the area, but found no trace of it. For weeks after that, I received similar reports from people all over town. The shadowy figure was back, and it seemed to be more powerful than ever. As the weeks turned into months, I became obsessed with finding out the truth about the figure. I spent all my free time researching the history of the town, looking for any clues that might help me understand what was happening. But no matter how much I searched, I couldn't find any concrete information about the figure. Some people believed that it was the spirit of a long-dead criminal, seeking revenge on the town that had wronged him. Others thought it was a manifestation of some kind of ancient curse passed down through the generations. I tried to keep a level head to rationalize the events and find a logical explanation. But as the reports of the figure continued to pour in, I knew that something had to be done. One night, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Armed with my gun and a flashlight, I set out to track down the shadowy figure once and for all. I spent hours scouring the town, searching for any sign of the figure, and then, just as I was about to give up hope, I saw it. The figure was standing at the edge of the town, just beyond the forest. It was larger than I remembered, with twisted limbs and glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce the darkness. I raised my gun and fired, but the bullets had no effect. The figure simply laughed, a cold, mocking sound that chilled me to the bone. And then it spoke. "You cannot defeat me," it said, in a voice that sounded like ice scraping against stone. "I am eternal, and I will always be here, watching." waiting and hunting. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding with fear and disbelief, and then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure vanished into the night. From that day forward, I knew that the shadowy figure would always be with me, haunting me with its presence, and reminding me of the terror that I had encountered on that cold winter night. But I also knew that I could never give up the fight, that I would always be searching for a way to defeat the figure and free my town from its grip of fear and darkness.